Robert Plank Show, episode 279, Plan to Profit, Daily Rewards, the 90-day launch sequence, and 5-day challenge with Stacy Tuschl. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the show. Our guest today is Stacy Tuschl, and Stacy started her first business in her parents' backyard at the age of 18 and turned that company into a seven-figure business. And she's the #1 international best-selling author of Is Your Business Worth Saving? In her book, Stacy reveals proven strategies for pulling entrepreneurs out of a rut and launching them towards business success. Stacy is also the host of the top-rated podcast, She's Building Her Empire, formerly the Business Rescue Roadmap, with listeners in over 69 countries. So Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Robert. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here, and I think that this is a really important sort of topic is, entrepreneurs and getting out of a rut, because I don't know about you, but it kind of seems to me sometimes I'll have like those exciting days and sometimes those sort of less exciting days, but then if I'm not careful, it's like one day sort of ends up kind of leading to the next, or next thing I know, it's like, whoa, I've barely been outside all week, or I haven't been on vacation in a month. So is this sort of a common problem that you're seeing?
Yeah, I experience it myself. I've either been there in the last 15 years, sometimes I am there. I think it's one of those things where, there are ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. It's not something that goes away. If you're in the newer stages and you're thinking, okay, yes, it gets better, but of course, there are ups and downs with anything. And I see that a lot with a lot of my coaching clients as well. But it's just one of those things where I think we like to break out of these comfort zones and reach the new level. And when we're constantly growing and stretching ourselves, of course, we're going to kind of fall into some patterns that maybe make us a little uncomfortable, or we get stuck in a rut because we don't know what to do next. But it's a lot of up and down for sure.
So, I mean, what's sort of the answer? Because I feel like with me, like sometimes they'll be like, well, I'm worried about getting stuck in a rut. I'm worried that if I push or stretch myself too much, like you said, I'm worried that like maybe I'll burn out and then maybe I won't feel like, doing anything. But then I know that if I just kind of rest on my laurels there, that's not good either. So, I mean, what's kind of the answer, and like, how do we sort of get positions in like the just the right calibration, I guess maybe you
Right.
could say.
Well, I think it's a great question. And I think for every person, there's a different routine or a different rhyme or reason for what you need to do. So it's a lot of kind of digging deep and finding within what that answer is for you. But I think for me specifically, I have to be very intentional about what you said, scheduling in those vacations, having time where you can get outside and go for a walk. There are so many days where I'm going, oh my goodness, I haven't even been outside yet, like things like that, because we work in our homes. So I think it is really, really important that you have this daily reward or a weekly reward, something you do monthly. So you have these goals, but when you hit them, you should be rewarding yourself. And it's not always just about hitting like the big financial goal, hitting a goal where, wow, I achieved this, I accomplished this. Maybe it didn't bring in the finances I was hoping it did, but you should still be rewarding yourself for doing things like that and putting in all that hard work.
Awesome. So like you said, like maybe not financial reward, but if I like complete a project or finish a blog post or a book
Yeah.
or something like that, I can reward myself for that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like setting those rewards before they actually happen. So what I mean by that is, saying, okay, I'm working on my book. When the book, like first draft is done, I will go do this. So not saying it after it's over, but actually going, no, I'm working towards this. And every morning when the alarm goes off and you don't want to get up, you don't have to think, well, I'm writing a book. No, you can think, okay, well, I'm taking that vacation. I'm working towards this. And I think it excites us a little bit more to see more of the results versus what has to happen to get us there.
Awesome. And I can totally relate to that. And I can think back to different times when I said, I'm not just going to goof off. I'm going to give myself that reward, that vacation, that
Yeah.
whatever, after I get that goal knocked out. But then in terms of like, having all that stuff scheduled, having that calendar, do you ever feel like sometimes having all that stuff on the calendar maybe like takes away from that freedom, because there's like that routine, but then it's like, well, now I'm kind of like a slave to the calendar in a way.
So for me, I almost view it as I'm putting this on the calendar here, but I have the freedom and flexibility to move things around. Like, yes, we had this appointment and I would absolutely not cancel it unless something like important came up. But I absolutely could have said, hey, Robert, I'm so sorry. This just popped up today, or my daughter stayed home sick from school, or this happened, or even just to saying, hey, we actually scheduled a last minute vacation. Is there any way we can, postpone this a week or 2 weeks or get back on your schedule? you do have the freedom and flexibility to do that. So I love seeing my calendar filled up because it knows that I have this structure and this routine, but I love even more that I really am the boss and I have the freedom and flexibility to move anything around or really cancel things if it's not something I want to do.
Awesome, gotcha. So the calendar is more like a guide, but it's not set
Yeah.
in stone. If we wanted to mix it up later on, we can. And I've definitely had, I myself have had those kinds of days where like maybe on a Friday afternoon or something, I had maybe, two or three, podcast interviews or appointments or things lined up. And I just said, on this particular week, like I'm so busy or I just,
Yeah.
tired or need to go do something or just want to take Friday off. Like I'll just go and cancel all those things.
Right.
So really cool there. And so sort of along those lines, I mean, what's your kind of schedule like? I mean, do you with this calendar stuff like are you
Yeah.
packed every day? Do you have days off, or does it change week to week for you?
So one of the things that I'm very intentional with is that I'm trying to not have it jam packed throughout the day because little things will pop up. I have a pretty large team, and at some point somebody will need something from me. All of a sudden, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Hey, I need this from you. They can't do their job until I've given them, a certain tool or something that they need on my end. So I like to have some freedom and flexibility in there because you just never know what's going to pop up, what somebody could need of your time. So I'm a big fan of having gaps, and I'm also a big fan of not having back-to-back appointments. So my last appointment before our phone call, I really had like a 10 to 15 minute buffer in there. So it's taking a break just to even stand up, walk around, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, even little breaks like that. Because if you're going from 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, you will be burnt out by the end of the day. So it's important to have just, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And I like to not work longer than 90 minutes before I take an actual break and get up, move around, go do something.
Awesome, and I think I've been doing that to a certain extent, but I didn't realize I was doing it. So it's good that
Yeah.
I know that I'm on the right track. And as far as
Yeah.
like these podcast interviews, I have them set as 1 hour blocks. Even though usually I know they're
Yes.
going to take 20 or 30 minutes, but it's like, well, if I go 5 minutes overtime, I don't want to go 5 minutes into the next thing. So I'm right there
Right.
with you as far as having sort of those breaks there in the calendar. But sort of
Yeah.
so kind of it makes me think about kind of the opposite of that as well, because one thing that I really wanted to be able to do, sort of like a pie in the sky dream, is if I wanted to do like 10 podcast interviews back to back for like one day, I would love to be
Yeah.
able to do that. But I feel like when I do like 3 in a day, 4 in a day, it's sort of like, I don't know, like feels like I'm pushing myself too hard. So, I mean, is that sort of thing possible? Is it possible to just be able to be so productive, to have a day where just I can just, do 10 things in a day
Yeah.
and then somehow recharge my batteries on other days?
Yeah, so what you're talking about is what I call batching. So instead of doing, if you have a podcast every week and every week, once a week, you're recording, it is a lot nice to be able to batch those podcasts and throw them all in. So last summer, and I actually did this again in December, I knew that December gets crazy. I wanted to make sure I was able to do any last minute holiday things, just be with the kids. And then same thing in summer. I live in Wisconsin, so I don't know about you, but I do not want to miss my summer. So I batched all of my episodes and I did them beforehand so that all summer long I could just enjoy not having to be, have that set structure and routine on my calendar. So I think batching is important. I also think sometimes, doing 3 in a row could be really draining. And you're going, but how could you then up it to 10? I think when you have this one day and it's done in a day, you get this different kind of energy and momentum to really know that, okay, this is going to be worth it. Yes, it's going to be a tough day. You're going to properly prepare. But then how amazing that you might have 10 weeks worth of content ready to go.
Awesome. So it's like if I keep thinking about what that end goal, that end result's going to be,
Yeah.
then that's like the motivation to kind of to get through it, because the big reward at the end of it is so super huge. And so, do you have days like that where maybe if you like, in whatever sort of task you want to knock out, if you say, I want to knock out 20 videos, do you ever have days like that where you're just like, on this Tuesday, nothing else but this like totally focused
Yeah.
task?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And for me, it's probably different for a woman than it is for a man. But when I get my hair, like when I do my hair and makeup, you better believe I'm going to go knock out 10 videos in a row versus one 2-minute video, right? So for me, it's going, okay, there's a lot of prep work here. And if I'm all done up and ready to go, I'm going to shoot a bunch of those. So I do think you should be very strategic. And there are times where I map out, okay, I'm going to jump on Facebook Live today. So maybe I'm going to do a regular shoot where I'm going to pre-record my videos where I sell online courses, things like that. But hey, I'm already ready and I'm presentable. I could absolutely jump on Facebook Live and deliver even more value to my audience. So I'm trying to batch things that make sense, especially when I'm doing interviews. If I already have to be home that day anyway from 1 to 2, why not tack something on from 12 to 1 or from 2 to 3? Because I already know I'm committing to be at my house in that moment doing whatever that is.
Awesome. I like it. And that makes me think that, when like I don't get my hair cut that often, maybe, 2 or 3 times a year, but those
Yeah.
times that I do have like that fresh cut hair look,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to be, I tend to do the same thing. Like I'm on Facebook Live a lot
Right.
more. I'm in video because you might as well get the best bang for the buck, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So we talked so far a little bit about like productivity and routines and stuff like that, and you've also mentioned that you have like the book and you have this team of employees and stuff like that. So can you kind of tell us like what you do and what's making money for you these days?
Yeah, definitely. So my background, I should say, started in brick and mortar, but I still have it, but I am now in the online space. So I'll kind of go into that business because there's a lot to cover otherwise. But online, I am typically selling online, like I should say, do it yourself online courses, group coaching programs, masterminds. The things that are really making money, honestly, are the ones where kind of included in that package. I think people are kind of over some of the do it yourself type stuff and they're looking for, or maybe they're not over it, but they're looking for that next level of they need an expert. They need somebody's opinion after they go through that online course. So those are the ones that have been doing really well for me. And I have just, a few other things. I do a live event. I have my book. So there are a lot of things, but sometimes they're actually bringing in money. Other times they're just there for kind of to capture those leads and hopefully convert into money down the road.
Awesome. And so with all these the coaching and the courses and stuff like that, I mean, what's
Yeah.
your specialty? What about business and all that do you teach?
Yeah. So one of the things I have coming up that I'm super excited about is your 90-day launch plan. So really taking, everything that you're doing and going, okay, well, we really need to launch within the next 90 days. And what I love about this is I have a launch plan every 90 days. When I launch something and it's done, I create another launch plan. So it's great for anybody that is going, okay, I'm looking to do that next big thing. And what I like about launches is it kind of gives people a reason to check you out and it gets them excited. It makes them feel like this is an exclusive event, right? It's not the same thing next week. It's not just a freebie that you can get at any time. It's something where it's a date specific event. So I love the exclusivity feeling of this live experience, I should say. And I think one of the things that I love doing with this is, even with a small list, I've been able to share with my coaching clients too, how they can get in front of their true people, but then at the same time, growing their list because everybody says you can't even launch until you have a large list. But for me, my launches have grown my list every single time I'm doing it because of the way that I'm launching.
And so, I mean, how does that work exactly? How do you grow your list while launching?
Yeah. So the last couple of things that I've been doing a lot of 5-day challenges. So what's great about that is I'm growing my list because people are wanting to opt in to the challenge. And then as I'm doing the challenge, now at the end of it, I'm launching a new program. So it's a huge way to grow your visibility, grow your list, and then create engagement. There is nothing that engages more than a 5-day challenge. It has been pretty incredible. And I've done webinars and video series and things like that. And I do Facebook Live all the time. But the thing that it's just different, my Facebook Lives have never been better during a challenge week. So I think there's something knowing that we're committing together. We're going to do this. It's only 5 days and you're going to end with a very tangible results. So the next one that I'm doing is coming up in May, and it's going to be creating your 90-day launch plan in just 5 days.
Cool. And so Can you sort of walk us through this idea of the 5 day challenge? Because
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually seen it, or maybe if I've seen it, I've kind of missed it. And I've heard a couple other people, who do launches talk about this. And the way that it was sort of explained to me is like, say you're doing a weight loss product launch coming up, and you
Yeah.
have these videos, and you have like a free membership level they sign up for, and they get some videos and like commit to something, and maybe take a test at the end, and it sort of opens their eyes as far as like a problem they might not be seeing or some action they should be taking. And that's kind of the way it was explained to me. But is your 5 day challenge different, or is there a better way to do it as opposed to what was kind of explained to me?
Yeah, so one of the things with 5 day challenges, and the one of the, I guess, biggest common questions I get is who is it for, right? So I've coached a lot of multi-level marketers through challenges. I've coached a lot of online, like people selling online courses, digital products, like online influencers, people like that. It has been really great for those types of industries for sure. And the big thing is with the 5 day challenge is you are making sure that they can actually get something done in 5 days. So the reason you're not having as much success with a 30-day challenge, a 21-day challenge is people typically do not make it through 21 and 30 days. So they're not being successful in your freebie, and they're not there when you're ready to pitch the paid version. Whereas a 5 day challenge, unfortunately, some people still won't make it through 5 days, but the people that do are so pumped and so excited, and they're ready for that next thing. So they're just waiting for you to sell them something because they can't believe the results they got in just 5 days.
Awesome. And it sounds like by having it 5 days, it's sort of that sweet spot. Because if it were just
It
like,
is.
only a day or two, they might have not checked their email or their Facebook in time. And like you said, if it's 10, 20, 30 days, then it's like, well, most people won't even get to the end of that. And then that'll
No,
be kind
right.
of like negative social proof on your part. And then even if they do get to the end of that, then it's like, well, why do I need your course? I just had a really good last, 30
Yeah.
days. So that makes a lot
Well,
of sense
yeah.
there. Yeah.
I agree with that. And at 30 days, you're right. You could feel like you already took the course. You were just in a month-long program with somebody, whereas 5 days, you're barely scratching the surface. And one of the best strategies that I've had luck with is every single day is really a standalone lesson. So I've had people before jump in on day 4 and purchase on day 5 because they were going, wow, I got so much value out of day 4. They're excited to go back and check out days 1, 2, and 3. But the cool thing is, if I would have done it the opposite, where it was kind of building up and they jumped into day 4 and felt lost, they would have given up. But they jumped into day 4 going, hey, I can do this. I can answer the questions she's asking. So to make those standalone teaching days, I think is one of the biggest things you have to focus on.
Awesome. That's a really good idea. And so just to make sure that we all kind of understand this, and especially me, can you walk us through like a case study of one of these 5 day challenges as far as like,
Yeah.
what was the upcoming launch, what's the challenge itself, and then maybe what were some of those individual days?
Yeah, for sure. So I will go back to my November challenge that I did. It was called Plan to Profit. So it was a great time of year to be doing something like this. We're preparing to end 2016 with a bang, launch 2017 with an even bigger bang. So it was a really great way for us to kind of break that down. And it got people excited, right? You have to do something that people actually want. And that was the perfect timing for it. So we had with this one, now this is kind of crazy, some of these numbers, but we had 400 people opt into this challenge. This was not one that I had been doing a ton of Facebook ads or anything to. So our challenges have been much larger since then. But I want to share with you how small it was and the results with that. So we had 400 people opt in. On day 1, we asked them to post, I'm trying to think specifically, one day might have been like your vision. What do you want for 2017? What does that look like? Then I'm kind of making this up, but it was kind of the basics of what we did. Day 2 might have been, okay, well, if you want this, what are we going to sell? How are we going to do this? What do those numbers look like? Let's break that down. So we're kind of working back and forth with that. And you could still jump in on day 2 because we would say, all right, so you need your annual income goal for 2017. If you didn't do it yesterday, that's okay. Pick one for today. So they could easily jump in and then start breaking that down, reverse engineer it. So we were giving them these little tips and tools and things to do. And out of 400 people, we sold a pretty high-end program. It was $2,500, so much larger than my average cost of my programs. And we had, I think, like 20 or 22 people buy around there. So it ended up becoming almost a $60,000 launch because there were some payment plans in there and things like that. And with just 400 people, which is kind of crazy because anybody listening can get 400 people. I mean, just with Facebook ads alone, you could get that. So what's cool about that is the engagement. So on day one, we had 100 people post in our Facebook group their results for day one. Now, what's cool about this is to have 25% engagement where they're actually, like doing the work and putting that out there for everybody to see is a really, really high number. I was blown away by how many people were actually posting in that Facebook group. So the engagement is incredible. And there were people that said to me, I didn't even know you 5 days ago that bought my product for $2,500, which was pretty a higher level priced product. So it's exciting to see how quickly you can relate and resonate with somebody that you didn't even know 5 days ago.
Yeah, and those are some freaking crazy numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
you start with 400 opt-ins, and I mean, a 5% bought, and even if you had 5% conversion on a $100 product, that would be awesome. But
Yeah.
$2,500, I mean, super amazing. And then that Facebook group participation, I mean, 25% of all those opt-ins. And so, I mean, am I sort of understanding this right? In that the 5-day challenge doesn't really require any kind of fancy software? Or are you just using the
Oh,
Facebook group
yeah.
for this?
Yeah, so we were strictly using the Facebook group. You're right. We basically, besides an email and a landing page, everything was hosted on Facebook. One thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're on your fan page, and then you want to share it inside of your Facebook group because we were sticking ads. We were putting money on the Facebook Live pages. We were sticking money on the Facebook Lives that were on the fan page. If you do it inside of your group, you cannot stick Facebook ads to it. So that's why we share it inside of the group versus hosting it in the group.
Okay, I gotcha. So you would post, or you would live stream under the pages, and that way you can run the ads, and then you would share
Yeah.
that into the group.
Yeah. So people were watching the video for day two and getting excited. They would do day two, go opt in, and then start with day one and just kind of do it out of order because it didn't matter. So that's why it's really important that you kind of strategize what day one through day five looks like.
And then when you're approaching that day 5, is there sort of a secret to transitioning people from being in kind of learning and challenge mode into
Yeah.
buying mode? Is that fifth day challenge like an easy one, or like what kind of secrets are there to getting them pushed along to that next step?
Yeah, so day five is a little bit different. You do come out and still give value, still give that, instruction for day five, but then we kind of wrap it up with a webinar. And then after they've jumped on the Facebook Live that morning, we jump on a webinar later that day. And the webinar is where we actually will go and sell that product. So you can really give that full value on a webinar and kind of recap everything you've done, but still give some more value and then go to sell your product.
Awesome. And then, like you mentioned that you're launching kind of like different products.
Yeah.
You're moving on to the next thing. Do you make a new Facebook group every time, or are you like reusing and building the existing Facebook group for each launch?
This is a really good question. So in the beginning, I was nervous that my group wasn't big enough to start a group because do you want to go in a challenge where there's 20 people? Probably not, right? You want to see that, okay, wow, a couple hundred people are doing this challenge. So my last challenge, I felt like, okay, we're getting big enough. I don't need to be doing it in my current Facebook group. So my current Facebook group, She's Building Her Empire, has 1,500 people in it. So for this next challenge, we're going to start a brand new Facebook group exclusively for this 5-day challenge because we know we can get enough people over there and in there to make it look impressive. But the last two that I did, I kept it in the group because I wanted to make sure, like a number of 1,500 is impressive. And I wanted people to see that and kind of give me that credibility. Whereas now I think I'll be able to do that in a private group too.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
cool. So that gives hope for the rest of us, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's I do believe you should have a Facebook group. If you do not get one, they're phenomenal. So I would start building that no matter what. And a great way to build your Facebook group is the challenge. So that first time that I did the challenge, I mean, my group grew by 400 people. So it's a really, really easy way to get new followers in your Facebook group. So I would start it there until you feel like you're big enough. And then I would do a private page.
Awesome, cool. And so, as you're teaching your students to run these launches, and you're doing like coaching and courses and stuff like that, do you see like a common mistake being made over and over when it comes to product launches or these challenges or anything like that? Any just kind of glaring mistake you keep seeing?
Yeah. So such a good question. So I would say I don't think people understand how much work really goes into a launch. So they kind of whip it together in a day or a weekend and they just go for it. But I mean, we're prepping. I mean, I've got a team that's doing it. We're prepping probably at least 30 days out. And that's probably an under exaggeration. I would say even longer because there are so many different pieces, whether it's email copy, Facebook ad copy, graphics. We do a content bank where I know what I'm going to talk about on Facebook Live every single day. 2 weeks prior to the launch, every day of the launch, a week after while the cart is still open. So there's a lot of work that goes into a launch. And I think people are just rushing it. And then they don't make what they're hoping to make and they just get frustrated. So you really got to put a lot of prep work into that.
Makes a lot of sense because, and especially like you see other launches and it's really easy to say, oh, they make it look so easy. They're just coming out with graphics, coming out with videos, not realizing that they have a team, they have all those checklists and those templates that are making that kind of thing a lot easier. And so with all the possible ways of, going wrong and forgetting parts of the launch or kind of taking too long and other stuff, I imagine that one of your courses kind of walks people through this kind of launch stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, so the next thing that I'm actually going to be launching is helping people together with myself going through your 90-day launch plan. So instead of selling a do-it-yourself course, it's actually going to be something where I go with a small select group of people and help them go through it. So we're actually all going to go through a launch together while we're in this 90-day program. So not everybody will have the same date. They'll pick their days and their times and everything. But I really want to make sure I'm able to help them with the launch because, even afterwards, it's a lot of work. It's lessons learned and what should we do next time and how do we make this better? And should we do it again? Do we go evergreen? Do we scrap it? Like all of those things are still things we have to be thinking about when the launch is over.
Awesome. Yeah, I imagine there's all kinds of those questions like, should I relaunch the same thing? Should I relaunch something new and bigger and higher ticket? Or should I take these buyers and kind of move them up to a one-on-one coaching program? All kinds of possibilities, all kinds of ways to get stuck. So I imagine that kind of thing would be very helpful for everyone kind of being in it together. And so for people, So for people to find out about you and these different like courses you have and these different services, where should they go to find out everything?
Yeah, so my website is shesbuildingherempire.com, and I have a work with me page. So on there, you'll see the Profit Mastermind. That's the thing that we've just been talking about. But there's other options on there too. So definitely feel free to check it out. And my favorite place is either the podcast, She's Building Her Empire, or the Facebook group.
Awesome, cool. So she's buildingherempire.com, and everyone should go there and check out the podcast there and the blog. And is there a place on this site to get on your list and just to find out what you're up to
definitely. Lately? Yeah, lots of freebies and lots of value and everything there as well.
So I'm on there right now. So where should people go to get on your list specifically?
Yeah, so there is a little spot if you scroll down, a freebie called Overlooked to Overbooked, and it is a 16-page workbook of everything you need to know to, go from overlooked to overbooked with high-paying clients, and then that'll take you right there.
Awesome. So scroll down a little bit and find that from overlooked to overbooked and click on get it, and that way you can sign up and you can be notified of all the latest stuff. And so before we kind of sign off here, Stacy, is there any sort of advice that you wish that you could have given yourself, 10, 20 years ago if you had a time machine? Anything like that? Any just like huge, giant business kind of takeaway?
Yeah, for me, I always say this because it's just, I believe in it so much, but stretching yourself, don't be the smartest person in the room. Get out of your comfort zone. Yes, it might feel scary. Yes, it's not the place that we want to naturally go towards, but we need to be surrounding ourselves with incredible people that can push us and stretch us and incredible knowledge and content like your podcast. And there's so many things out there for people to be, diving in deep with. So just really be making sure that every day you're learning, you're growing, and you're getting out of your comfort zone.
Awesome. I can completely relate to that. And that's one of those really important reminders where if I let myself forget that lesson there of, always be learning and be looking for those relationships and, sort of have value and stretch yourself and all those things. If I forget that for even a couple of days and I notice like everything just sort of falls apart a little bit, like I'm just don't have as much energy, not as excited. But then when I remember, that really simple but easily forgotten lesson of, I have to kind of push myself and be the best that I can be, because no one else is going to be me for me. I mean, really important piece of advice to remember. So I want to thank you so much, Stacy, for coming on the show and dispensing all kinds of, life advice, productivity advice, launch advice, do's and don'ts. And everyone should go right now to shesbuildingherempire.com. That's shesbuildingherempire.com, and check out what Stacy has to give to you, and get on her list. Check out our courses, check out our coaching, contact her if you need something specific. So shesbuildingherempire.com. Thanks, you guys, for listening, and thanks, Stacy, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Robert. This has been fun.
Subscribe to us right now while it's still fresh on your mind at robertplank.com/iTunes, or just search Robert Plank in your iTunes app.